Hi everybody, Adrian Plass here again.
Yep, and Bridget yet again.
And I think I'm right in saying this is the 29th of these things that we have done.
I think it is.
I'm
it is.
quite looking forward to number 30 tomorrow. No, 29 at the moment.
We had an email from our competitors in the jigsaw world, and I don't know if I'm pleased or sad to hear their news. They are the ones who bought the 5,000 piece jigsaw. It turns out it's 6 foot long by 3 foot wide. As they have an oval table, so the curvy ends, they have decided it definitely will not fit on their table. They have contemplated doing it on the floor, but felt that if they did try and do it on the floor, they'd never get up again. So I think it's been put away.
Nice people, though.
Oh,
I hope
lovely.
You know those people.
Yes.
Yeah, they are. We've also had quite a lot of anagrams, haven't we?
Well, all from one person or
From
two
one
people.
person.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of anagrams.
Yeah.
This couple were going to do a cryptic crossword, but couldn't for some reason. So instead, they settled down with "no shore in sight," those words, and produced I don't know how many anagrams. I mean, they went on forever. Not only that, but they used them to kind of map a funky Hamlet, or was it punk Hamlet?
A
punk Hamlet. Yeah. Anyway, that's what it was. But they were profoundly ingenious.
Yes,
they
they
really,
were.
really were.
I think it was their excuse to make it so it didn't have to make too much sense. But in fact, you have added to it.
I have added to it my suggestion, which is a not very humble little addition, is that Hamlet should have drawn a line under all that tragedy nonsense and found himself a nice woman to settle down with in a nice little house, someone who shared his views and
Yes.
had another particular thing in common with him, because the woman he found would have to be called Thelma, which is, as all anagram aficionados will know, an anagram of Hamlet. So Hamlet and Thelma would be there together, and they would have an anagrammatic and a metaphorical connection that would
Yes.
work far better than that stuff Shakespeare wrote. Just think of this. Hamlet and Thelma. There is a sitcom waiting to be written.
I think we might have come to the end of any anagrams about no shore in sight. I think maybe draw a line under that. But we are still getting
maybe.
one or two drinks. We heard from somebody who reckoned that they were like a glass of pop, but they didn't need artificial sweetener, which I thought was really nice. And somebody else who thought that what they would like to be thought to be was a latte. Now, this person really likes her latte. She described it like this. She didn't like her latte too strong or too weak. She liked it with semi-skim milk. She liked it in a tall glass and with a long spoon. And then she said that's what she would like to be like, and hopes that she is neither too strong nor too weak, relaxed, comforting, balanced, and as transparent as the glass that her latte comes in.
And with a long spoon.
I don't know about the long spoon. She didn't actually mention the long spoon.
All right, okay.
We heard from somebody today, didn't we, that they are intending during this lockdown period to cull their books.
Culling the books, yeah. Yeah, this is a funny business. For a start, when I set out to cull books, it usually means I move to read one, half of one, and then get miserable about the whole idea of culling them. But we did have an experience with some friends, didn't we?
We did. They told us on, I think it was the Friday of a weekend, that they were going to cull their books, that they had far too many. They were going to take them along to the second-hand bookshop and be rid of them. And we were really impressed, actually, weren't we? And then on the Sunday, we were due to go to tea with them. So we turned up their house, didn't we? And
Yeah,
knocked
we
the
went to
door.
the house and knocked on the door, and there was a loud kind of crashing, knocking, banging sound going on inside. Took ages to get them to hear us, and eventually one of them came to the door, and we went in, and what had happened was, and they were very shamefaced
They
about
were.
this, they looked at their books, and they had decided that not only would they not cull them, but they needed 2 more bookcases. So the noises of knocking was them putting together the new bookcases. I mean, It's so difficult to do, though. You just don't want to throw away books. It's really
No.
hard.
And of course, for people of our generation, it's not just loads of books, it's loads of printed photographs. I mean, now
Well,
you
that's
can have
right.
hundreds
Yeah.
on your phone, but then it wasn't like that at all, was it?
It's amazing to think how different it is. I mean, upstairs in our chest of drawers, they've been all sorted out now, thank goodness. But we had one huge drawer filled with photographs
Yeah.
from over the years. And actually, we do somewhere have a bag full of films that never got developed.
We do. We really do.
But I know what will happen if we do have them developed. The same thing will happen as happened to us and just about everybody else in the old days. You took your 24 photos, or 36 if you were very, very lucky.
With
and
high hopes.
Yes, sort of.
Well, hopes.
Then you went back to the shop to collect them, to the place where they were being developed. And you were very, very lucky if you had one reasonable one with one of the children pulling a face. That
Yes.
was likely to be your score.
Yes.
Very occasionally you got something worth looking at. But,
Yes.
I mean, most of them were absolute rubbish.
Well, it didn't help matters that people like my mother never did quite get the hang of taking photos anyway, did she? I mean, what was it?
Well, your mother had a camera with the actual glass bit was in one of the corners.
That's right.
So she mentally adjusted for that every time she took a photo. So the thing that was supposed to be in the middle of the photo was in the corner of the
That's
photo.
right.
And nothing we said could ever change her
No,
mind.
so all of her photos have people squashed in the corner, half heads cut off and whatever.
That's
No,
right.
she was not somebody easily convinced.
There has been no David Bailey in our world. That's right.
But when I was sorting out all our photos, they brought back an incredible number of memories. And some of them were lovely, of course they were. And some of them, even though maybe people were smiling in them, reminded us of times that were not quite so great. One I remember, which was lovely because it rather reminded me, yesterday Adrian was talking about Jasper Ponovich, is
That's
that
it.
right?
Yeah,
The
well
golfer?
remembered, yes,
Well, almost
yeah.
remembered. And about how there was a picture of him with his two little girls feeling completely safe. Well, my father was a very strong swimmer. And one of my best memories, and one that was photographed very badly by my mother, was of my father swimming out to sea with me, really very small, hanging onto his back. The thing about my father is that he was not a tactile person. When I was a child, I don't ever really remember ever holding on to him or hugging him, which was, I think, quite natural for people of my generation, really. But it is interesting. It's not just photos that trigger memories. This was definitely God triggering a memory. Not a prophecy, not a dream, but a memory. It was at a time when things were going very, very, very badly wrong for a lot of people who we loved. And in the middle of one night, I'd come to the end. I really had. I just couldn't handle it any longer. And I got up and I went out and sat on the stairs and I just could not stop crying. Nothing. There seemed to be no light anywhere around. And I had this memory. Well, my dad, you probably picked up if you've listened to any of them, had a lot of fear in him. He was also a very moderate person. He never did anything immoderately, did he, Adrian?
No, he worshipped at the altar of moderation.
He did.
He took moderation to extremes.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. And one of the moderate things that he did was that every evening at 6 o'clock on the dot, we walked the dog. Rain or shine, summer or winter, we walked the dog. Now, that could have been a really nice thing, but my father suffered a lot of stress at work, so he didn't really talk much. He was very silent. And as I say, he wasn't a huggy dad. He wasn't a tactile dad. So I actually didn't enjoy these walks at all, really. We just trudged along. The only time I really enjoyed them, and this is going to sound quite odd, I didn't enjoy them at all in the summer because I could have been out playing with my friends, but in the winter, when it was dark at 6 o'clock, and especially when it was raining, something happened that didn't happen at any other time. My father had an umbrella. Now, it was probably a very moderately sized umbrella, I have to say, but as a young child, I remember it as being a huge black umbrella. And when it was raining and when it was dark, my father, being very moderate, didn't want me to get wet. And so he would pull me to him and he would tuck me under his arm. And sitting on the stairs that night, I remembered everything. I remembered the smell of the wet dog as she tried to get under the umbrella as well, and her tail swishing against my leg. But most of all, I remembered being snuggled under my father's arm. And I felt as though God was saying to me, things are dark, they are difficult, but you can be safe under my arm. You can be safe in the middle of the dark and the wild and the wet. Later on, I started thinking about this and thinking there is a problem sometimes when the world gets back on its axis and everything is okay, because sometimes we lose all that dependence, don't we? And we start kind of thinking about the price of kitchen rolls and all sorts of other
I tell
really
you, when it happens,
things.
I mean, we don't know yet. Memories are very powerful, aren't they? I mean, I wasn't sure I wanted to talk about this, but before the lockdown, my younger brother died. In hospital. Fortunately, we were able to see him just before he died.
And fortunately, his wife was able to be with him.
Yeah, because the virus thing wasn't happening then, or wasn't apparent. After he'd died, his wife sent us some photos, and one of the photos was of our family, which means 3 boys sitting on the grass, myself and my younger brother and my older brother, and my mother and father sitting behind us, smiling, and us all smiling, and our hair had been scraped into some sort of order. And my initial response was shock. And I was very glad when we sent a copy to my older brother in Scotland. He said that his response was the same the first time he saw it. And I still can't quite identify the roots of that shock, except that the apparent okayness of that photo is kind of at war with the reality.
With the truth.
It isn't that there was nothing good, but there were a lot of unusual strains in the memory of growing up. So that photograph had quite a powerful effect.
But it did trigger off some good memories as well.
We did have some good memories, and I wrote about one of them a while ago, and this is what I wrote. You'll see what it's about as I read. The woods belonged to us when we were small. In early summer we were flattered when the brand new beech leaves came to visit, so soft, fresh and fluttering, like a family of pretty girls, green and golden when the sun shone proudly on their faces. How I wished that I could show you pictures of the places where we played, especially the camp we made or occupied across the stream, where some old tree had groaned and given up its pointless journey to the sky, content to die in answer to our silent prayer for somewhere just to be. You need no deeds or mortgages when you are less than 10 years old. Our latticed dwelling was a habitat, a secret, sacred home from home. Older, smarter, far more foolish versions of ourselves would one day repossess this property of ours. We would fancy we could see with certainty and sadness that mostly it had happened in our minds and waking dreams, before the spoiler leaned and hissed the lie into our hearts, that every single thing we love and lose was only ever made from its component parts. I don't believe that the things we had, the people we loved and that were special to us, were just made from their component parts. I intend, especially now, to value my memories, the ones that are good to value, and hold on to them. And I really hope you'll be able to do the same.
Yeah, hunt through them. Not cull them, not memories, but hunt through them, even the difficult ones, the blurry ones, and try and find a good one, something that will lighten you up.
It's interesting. I mentioned my brother dying. My mother, I think I said the other day, was in a wheelchair for 7 years, was it, or something?
Or even more.
And after she died, and I know people understand this, the memories were of the wheelchair days, which were very difficult. But as time went by, we remembered her before that. Her energy, her laughter, the contribution she made to everything she was involved in.
Yeah.
And to have those memories now is really wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think that those can come back when tragedy has hit you or things have gone wrong. I do hope so. So sort through the memories, pick out the good ones.
Absolutely. And don't decide that it can't be from God if it's a memory, because if he doesn't just use the things that we know he's supposed to use, he can use anything at all.
Yeah. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.